few days ago, I did sort of threaten that I would be doing the video which a lot of people probably expect from me. I have a reputation on here for being someone who hates everything. It's not a reputation that has any foundation, although that said, there are plenty of things that I really cannot stand. So I did say that I would do a video of, well, it's not my top 10 because it would be impossible for me to do a top 10 of the things I hate. So it's just 10 things that I hate. I will attempt to keep it somewhat light-hearted, which means that Israel won't get a mention, neither will Northern Ireland, neither will religion, and neither will racism. Well, technically racism won't be part of it, but one of my choices may result in racism cropping up in terms of a subject that I cannot stand. Not any racist talk coming from me. If you want racism, go and watch a Spike Lee film. Anyway, yes, here we go then. The, well, A10 things that really makes Lukozer hate. In the days of modern television, with so many channels dedicated to showing endless crap, it would be, or you would imagine, quite difficult to pick out one channel as standing out as a stalwart of providing the UK with an endless stream of moronic total bollocks. But BBC Three does it easily. BBC Three is the channel that brought us 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, Sun, Sex and Suspicious Parents, fascinating documentaries like My Man, Boobs and Me, Snog, Marry, Avoid. You know, it gave Russell Howard his own television bloody program. What the fucking hell was that cunt doing getting one? And the list goes on. You cannot find one good program that was made specifically for BBC Three. And I say specifically because I know some people are going to say, well, they show Top Gear on BBC Three. They also show some decent sports events on BBC Three. Well, I can't think of any offhand. Someone's going to say football. Fuck off, fucking football. So BBC Three has no redeeming features whatsoever, and you've got to ask yourself just what sort of fuckwit, you know, actually watches BBC Three willingly. From the beginning, I believe it started 16 years ago, so I think it was it may have even been longer than that. No, it can't be, because it started when I didn't live in this country. Thank God I wasn't around to see the start of it. So it must be 15, 16 years ago at most, because I left the country in 99 and stupidly came back in 2005, but that's no, 2004 even, but that's a different story. It's not often that I get lost for words when it comes to describing how much I detest something and how shit I think something is. But again, BBC Three manages it easily. There just aren't enough negative, hateful words to describe that fucking thing. But then there's the people who watch it, because apparently it gets semi-decent viewing figures. I mean, just who are these people? Yeah, okay, it's aimed, I believe, at teenagers, which does sort of explain it, because, I mean, let's face it, all teenagers, once they hit 13, and it stays that way until they're 19, their brains turn to shit. And most of the time, these people are in danger of shitting their brains out and staying that way for the rest of their lives. And if you watch BBC Three, that risk increases tenfold. And if you do watch BBC Three, then surely you have no right to criticise any television programme that is made. A BBC Three fan criticising another channel or a television programme that's or a television programme. Let's start that again. A BBC Three fan who is criticising another channel or a television programme that is shown on another channel is like, I'll use a great Charlie Brooker metaphor here, it's like a man gargling skunk piss complaining that the dog has farted in the corner. You have no right at all to criticise any other television programme. I mean, if you are the kind of person who sits there and watches, Son, Sex and Suspicious Parents, then, well, get the fuck off my channel now. You are about as welcome as a fart in a spacesuit. You are just beneath contempt. You are the kind of person who redefines moronic. And I can't say that, if you look in a dictionary for moronic, it doesn't say BBC Three fans, because even the dictionary doesn't stoop to those depths. I can't really go on about BBC Three too long, because all I can say is, we've been hearing that it's going to go off the air and go to online only. All I can say is that cannot happen soon enough. I've already alluded to the fact that I cannot stand football. To be honest, the reason for it is the English Premier League. It is everything that is shit about football is on full display there. And I'm not just saying that because QPR got relegated. It is full of, overpaid divas who somehow managed to get away with being rapists. It's full of it's full of absolute scumbags. Football is meant to be a contact sport, but you watch a game of Premier League football and you try telling me it's a contact sport now. I mean, okay, it's not a contact sport in the same way that rugby is, or Aussie rules football is, or even their ultimate in country sports, American football. I mean, that's more of a contact sport, even though they got to wear a fucking crash out to play it. But I mean, you're supposed to tackle people, so you are supposed to, there is some sort of contact there. But nowadays, if you go near a player and, just like, do you accidentally, hit the back of their fucking boot or something, they go rolling around on the floor like they've just been shot by a sniper in the crowd. But that's not my biggest hate of football. I mean, there are plenty of things that I hate about football. But the biggest one is goal celebrations. Now, people used to say that, when Alan Shearer scored, his goal celebration was boring because he basically just went around like that. So fucking what? At least he didn't make a total cunt of himself by doing some poncy ass fucking choreographed bullshit just because he scored a fucking goal. Something that ultimately is totally meaningless. But so you get these people who choreograph these elaborate goal celebrations. So firstly, they've been extremely arrogant in saying, right, well, it's obvious we are going to score this time, so let's, do something really, elaborate and cuntish and wanky and arty fucking bullshitty. To show our fans how wonderfully off the wall we are and fucking bullshit like that. And I guess the worst thing about it is that the fans lap it up. If you watch it on the television, okay, well, if you watch it on Match of the Day on BBC, you're watching it for free. But if you go to the ground and pay their fucking extortionate prices to go and watch a fucking game of football, for fuck's sake. Actually, I'll call it soccer, because English soccer fans seem to really hate it when people call it that. So you go and watch, you go and pay fucking, 500 quid for a seat at some cuntish fucking Chelsea versus fucking Arsenal game or something. And one of them scores and they go into all this fucking elaborate celebrations. I was going to put an example on here to show you what I mean, but I am not prepared to stomach watching one, let alone a selection of them, and pick out the worst one. So if you want to see some examples, go and fucking look yourself. You're not going to find any here. But yeah, so the fans have paid this money and go there and lap it up. So they're encouraging them to do it again and be more and more elaborate. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's getting to the point where we're going to have fucking fireworks going off all over the stadium because someone's fucking scored. And we're going to have fucking cheerleaders like they have in American football again, or any American sport. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they even had it in fucking Indy cars. And I just hate it. There's really nothing more to be said about it. Some of you are probably thinking, Paul David Hewson, who the fuck is he? Well, let's see. Imagine somebody who has such a monumentally overinflated opinion of their own self-importance that they literally think the sun shines out of their arse. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, well, that sounds like Bono. Which is probably just as well, because that's who Paul David Hewson is. Who the fuck does this cunt think he is? He is a walking shit smear on the face of the earth. He is a skid mark on the underpants of humanity. And yet, he thinks that just because he's sang on a fucking Band-Aid record, that he's now some, fucking ambassador to all of humanity, when in fact all he is a fucking 10th rate singer for one of the most ridiculously overhyped bands to have ever existed. And that's all he is. There's a great story about when Bono was being his pretentious cuntish self during a U2 concert, where basically everything stopped, everything went black apart from this spotlight on him. And he just stood there doing this. And after a little while he said, every time I do this, every time I clap, some child in Africa dies. And someone from within like the front like 3 or 4 rows shouted out, well, stop fucking clapping then. And I don't know what the reaction was. I would hope that most of the audience who heard it laughed at it, because it's what it deserves. It's, you know, if he genuinely thinks that Africa can be saved, I say saved, that's opening a whole new can of worms, but it's not something I can be light-hearted about, so I'm not going to mention Africa. But if he genuinely thinks that, you know, throwing money at it is going to save the problem, he's got fucking millions, he's fucking rolling in it. Give some of them to fucking Africa. Oh no, he won't do that. He'll keep asking you, you know, you lot who are fucking skint and, you know, barely earn enough money to be able to, you know, pay the extortionate price to go and see fucking U2 of all people. I mean, I guess if you're stupid enough to go and, you know, pay money to go to a U2 fucking concert, then yeah, you must have money to burn, because it's the only possible excuse for going there. You know, and so yeah, he's going around preaching to everybody, oh, give your money and help save Africa, but, you know, well, give some of your fucking millions. He earns more money than, you know, a lot of African nations have in their fucking GDP. So, you know, he is one hypocritical cunt, and he seems to go around thinking he's Lord God all fucking mighty. I wish he did have one thing in common with Lord God all fucking mighty, namely the fact that he doesn't fucking exist. In 1977, when Star Wars first came out in the US, at the start of it, when you had the scrolling bloody storyline thing, it started Star Wars, and then it is a desperate time for Galactic Republic, or whatever the fucking hell it says. And that was all it had. In 1978, when the film came over to the UK, by that time George Lucas had already started fart-arsing about with making changes to the film. Then it had the scrolling fucking bollocks, Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. However, the film was released with the title Star Wars. A couple of years later, when The Empire Strikes Back comes along, the first film was still called Star Wars. Go on a few years to when Return of the Jedi was released, or should I say unleashed. You look back to the previous titles and you see the first film is still called Star Wars. And it stayed this way for years. And suddenly, a few years later, not even when the first of the special editions came along, it was after that, suddenly people started calling it Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. That is not what it's fucking called. The film was released as Star Wars. That's it. And that's all it ever will be called. If I hear anybody call it Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, I will fucking punch them in the face. This one's a bit of a personal one. Southend is let's face it, a bit of a shithole. Although probably the fact that I've lived here most of my life probably has something to do with why I think that. But like the vast majority of Essex, Southend is predominantly working class. In fact, for southern England, and you know, a lot of people seem to think that, you know, the southern England is all very poncy and all that, and yeah, okay, for a fair chunk of it is, but Essex is basically working class southern England. There's no denying that. You know, when you look at fucking shitholes like Romford, Ilford, Basildon, Clacton, Colchester, Chelmsford, and of course Southend, there's no shortage of fucking, like, you know, run down shitholes in this county. You'd have a harder time trying to find you know, more upmarket, high class places. Seddon Boys is about the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I know there's at least one more, but that's probably about it. And yet, despite this, every election, whether it's a general election or a by-election or a council election, Southend always stays Tory blue. And of course the Tories hate the working classes. In fact, as far as the Tories are concerned, the working classes don't exist, and those few that do exist are just plebs. And yet, Southend is absolutely a working class you know, town. And if you are Southend born and bred, then like it or not, you are a fucking working class. I've got no problem with that. However, there are some people in Southend who really do have ridiculously, you know, overinflated views of themselves, and they think they are, you know, upper class. You know, or at least think they are, you know, a higher class than the rest of us grunts. And I mean, I went to school with a couple of people who were like this. I went to, Matthew Kennedy was someone I went to school with. At school, he was already turning into a fucking snob, so, you know, I can only imagine what he's like now. And the biggest one was someone I went to school with called Nathan Carter. I highly doubt, or at least I sincerely hope, that you have not met anybody who has as overinflated an opinion of themselves as he does. The only other person in existence who has a more overinflated opinion of themselves than Nathan Carter is fucking Bono. But yeah, he is the epitome of Southend snobs, and for that reason alone, well, that's a pretty fucking compelling reason for me to despise the sight of them. Seeing the name Disney instantly tells me that whatever it's associated with is going to be shit. Let's take their films, for example. Not their animated ones yet, just their actual feature films. So you get stuff like The Cat from Outer Space. Straight away the title says, oh, okay, that's a Disney film. Starring Ken Berry, who as always is doing a really shitty fucking Jimmy Stewart impression throughout his performance, which he does every single time he appears in a Disney film. Or you have One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing, another, oh yeah, okay, is that a Disney film by any chance? Oh yes it is. Peter Ustinov was in that one, I think. Fuck knows why. Or you get like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. I mean, that's got, that title just has Disney written all over it. Okay, that's not strictly just a feature film, it does have animation in it, but it's close enough to being a feature film for me to put it in this list. And don't think their animated stuff is free from my venom either. Well, if you want a more recent example, Beverly Hills Chihuahua. Now, there is a title that has Disney written all over it. Because Disney are the only company, filmmaking company, that would even consider a film with that title. Anyone else who you know, a studio boss or whatever, who is in possession of a single brain cell, and admittedly that's rare in Hollywood, but even there, they would get the script, you know, do it in front of them. They would look at the title, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, and straight away throw it on the fucking bonfire where it belongs. But no, not Disney. They'll not only read the script, they'll fucking turn it into a film. So their films are all beneath contempt. They have never done... oh, fucking hell. Alright, they've done one film that's bearable. Okay, they did the first Tron. Because I know people are going to say, oh, you forgot Tron. Okay, I haven't forgotten Tron. It doesn't mean that, you know, I don't fucking hate Disney still. And before anyone else says it, yes, I am including the Black Hole, because that's fucking bollocks. So we go on to the animated stuff. Right, so the animated fairy tales, yes, I guess, okay, they're bearable for the right age group, or at least they used to be. As they went on, they got worse and worse and worse, like, till we get stories like Pocahontas. That's not even a fairy story. It's a story that kids aren't interested in. Hercules, again, that's not a fairy story. Although it being given the Disney treatment means it almost looks like one. I mean, again, like all of the fairy stories originally were all quite grotesque in their own way, but of course, no, Disney can't do that. We've got to be kid friendly. Disney is one of those places that think kids are, you know, the greatest things on the face of the earth. If that isn't a reason I fucking hate them, then nothing is. So Hercules, you had Mulan. Who the fucking hell came up with the idea, oh yeah, we'll make Mulan? No one wants to see that. No one did see it. And then it got worse when they made their like original animated stuff. The Aristocats, what a fucking load of shit. 101 Dalmatians, I would rather gargle diarrhea than watch that fucking bollocks. Treasure Planet, what the fucking hell are you trying to do? Lilo and Stitch, I have a horrible feeling I'm going to have some people saying, oh, Lilo and Stitch was great. No, it fucking wasn't. Piss off. Yeah, and then it carries on with all their animated stuff, the computer generated stuff, the Pixar guff. When they first did it, okay, yeah, it was alright because it was a novel idea, but now they are churning them out by the fucking factory load. We're getting something like about 2 or 3 a year, it feels like. And every time it's a public holiday in the UK, whether it's Easter, Christmas, just a bank holiday or whatever, BBC One shows nothing but fucking Pixar films all the time. And we are sick of the sight of them. Well, I am anyway, and in this video my opinion is what matters. So, all of their films are just bollocks, apart from Tron, alright? But it gets worse. You get Disney World. Disney World is my idea of hell on earth. For a start, it's in America. So it's off to a fucking rough old start there. I'm talking about the original one, not the fucking Euro Disney, and not the one that's in Japan, and I'm sure there's another one somewhere else, but I couldn't give a monkey's toss where it is. So you have the Disney World in America. In fact, America is so obsessed with it, they've got 2, Disney World and Disneyland. One's in California, one's in Florida. No, I don't know which one's which, and no, I don't give a flying fuck either. And these places are again geared towards kids. They make these fucking little yank shits feel and therefore make them act like they're fucking gods. When in fact the only thing American kids are good for is fucking punching into the ground and then stamping on them until they're fucking flattened away and But Disney World is a haven for them. I genuinely cannot think of anything worse than being made to spend just one day in Disneyland or Disney World. One day there would be enough to send me into an early grave, because I would be going for a gun, and as tempting as it would be to shoot all the little shits, I'd be fucking blowing my brains out because I would not be able to handle another second there. And some people go there for a week. A fucking week of Disneyland. You can stick that right up your fucking arse. I'll end this one by pointing out a little fact that Disney fans always overlook. Some of them may not even know it. During the 1930s, Walt Disney was not only a supporter of the Nazis, but he was also a donator towards them. He paid several million dollars towards the Nazi party. So he was a really nice bloke. So you think about that next time you're watching Mickey fucking Mouse. If there's one thing that England, or in fact the whole of the UK, really doesn't need, it's another right-wing extremist mob. You could say we've already got UKIP, you could say we've already got the Tories, but we do already have the British National Party, who, believe it or not, are trying to be the acceptable face of right-wing fascism. And although the British National Party are no longer allied to them, there is also Combat 18, who are a nice bunch of people. And then we have the White Wolves, who are described as, and I quote, the extremist wing of Combat 18. That is a statement and a half, that is. You got to wonder about the mentality of somebody who's thinking, well, I would join Combat 18, but they're a bit too left wing for me. Fucking hell, they'd want to be put in a fucking institution. And okay, the BNP are not particularly nice, and Combat 18 and the White Wolves are not the kind of people you want to cross. Then you have the EDL, the English Defence League. Now this lot, if they had a brain cell among them, they'd be fucking dangerous. However, they don't have even approaching a brain cell among them, so they are not dangerous. What they are is fucking laughable. They were formed by somebody who took the name Tommy Robinson. I can't remember his real name, but that's the pseudonym he adopted. So he didn't have the courage of his convictions to use his real name when forming them. And he did it obviously to stand up to the Islamic extremism. Although anybody who is a revolutionary, as Tommy Robinson seemed to think he was, does always need to have some sort of knowledge of their enemy. And if your enemy is Islam, as this lot are saying, you need some knowledge of well, the Quran. Tommy Robinson admitted in his in an interview with Jerry Paxman that he has never read the Quran. I think if he had, he'd know that the Muslim extremists are really nothing to do with Islam at all. They're just in it for the fun of killing people. But it's amazing how the EDL managed to get so many followers. I mean, I didn't think there were that many brain dead people in the country. Because the thing that sums up the EDL brilliantly is a very well known clip at one of their demonstrations when someone was asked why he was protesting, and he came out with all his guff, but amongst it was his constant use of the word Muslimic. Yeah, Muslimic. So it's not so this bloke is protesting against a religion he doesn't even know the fucking name of. And later on in that interview, he was supposed to be talking about Islamic rape gangs. And okay, that is a serious matter. However, he did not refer to them as Islamic rape gangs. Because of the way he spoke, it sounded like he said Muslimic ray guns. And if you look on the internet, you go onto Google and you Google Muslimic ray guns, there is a whole plethora of stuff about it. And that interview alone, it was done in the sort of early days of the EDL, that's pretty much guaranteed that nobody was going to take him seriously. Like all of these like bullshit right-wing groups, they most of them couldn't give a monkey's toss about the supposed cause that they are supporting. They're just there to fucking start bother. And Tommy Robinson himself left the EDL. He left them, I think it was a couple of years ago, because ever since then no one's heard anything of them. They seem to be almost disintegrating. They don't seem to have a leader. If they do, no one knows his name. Maybe he should make himself known, because he probably doesn't want to. And let's face it, if you were leading those fucking bunch of shysters, would you want to be known? And the other thing that I just find utterly laughable about them is the fact that you can always spot an EDL supporter on certainly on YouTube when they reply to any comment. They will always say that anybody who is anti-EDL is a Marxist and a leftist, and they refer to this current government as Marxist and leftist. Our current government is Tory. At the moment, the Labour Party are even right-wing. The Lib Dems are right-wing, but not quite as right-wing as Labour or the Tories. So all three of the, well, I say major parties, you could hardly say that the Lib Dems are a major party anymore, but you know what I mean. All three of the established Westminster parties are all right-wing. Not as right-wing as the EDL, but a few things are. And yet the EDL supporters will say that the current Tory government are Marxist left-wings, or leftists as they refer to them. A Marxist Tory, yeah, that should be something. I make no secret of the fact that I am a Marxist. I am left-wing. That's why my business, I work on minimal profit. I make just enough to survive, and that's all I'm interested in. As it is, my business is currently temporarily shut down as I'm doing my living carer bit at the moment. But yeah, I freely admit that I am one of the few people who detest the EDL, who genuinely is a Marxist. So there you go. EDL supporters can slag me off all they like in this in the comments, if any of them see this, and they can call me a Marxist and a leftist, even though there's no such thing as leftist. But yeah, by calling me a Marxist, they're saying what I am, and what I freely admit to being. And let's face it, I'd rather be a Marxist than be a fucking walking piece of shit like any member of the EDL are. Right, well, the top three are still to come, but those three I need a video to themselves. In fact, it's quite possible that each one will get its own video, because there is a lot to cover in each of the three remaining ones. So this is going to be at least a 2-part video. It could be as many as 4 parts. So well, we'll see you in part 2, I guess. Yeah, we'll see what awaits you then.